Joseph or Yusuf. And last session, so we were talking about the story of Joseph and actually how actually he was brought to the court of the wife of the governor, and then then the governor wanted to put him in actually in prison for not obeying her. And there is one thing that I wanted to mention before going to the rest of that story. Mashallah, Shima was actually leading the previous session, and she told me that she noticed that she didn't read some of the verses, actually verse 10 up to verse actually 22, which were in one page of the Quran on the submission.ws, and she actually skipped that, and we didn't. I think nobody, yeah, nobody paid attention to it, and then she told me, and then she said, please read these as well, okay? So so I'm going to read. Brothers of Joseph. One of them said, do not kill Joseph. Let us throw him into the abyss of the well. Perhaps some caravan can pick him up if this is what you decide to do. And we actually know that the brothers thought that they are scheming to put Joseph in the well, to throw Joseph in the well. But actually, we know that this was the plan of God. They couldn't have possibly schemed any other scheme other than this, because this was the plan of God for Joseph to happen, and it happened actually. So they said, our father, why do you not trust us with Joseph? We will take good care of him. Send him with us tomorrow to run and play. We will protect him. He said, I worry lest you go away with him, then the wolf may devour him while you're not watching him. So basically, Prophet Jacob was afraid of something happening to Joseph, and by worrying, and I worry probably this idea of worry about Joseph because of probably loving Joseph so much. And what happened was, actually they said, indeed, if the wolf, what happened is that when they the brothers make up the story of Joseph being eaten by a wolf, they actually say the same thing to their father. So they said, indeed, if the wolf devours him with so many of us around, then we are really losers. Believers are blessed with God's assurances. When they went away with him and unanimously decided to throw him into the abyss of the well, we inspired him. Someday you will tell them about all this while they have no idea. So basically, God and God inspired Joseph that someday will happen that you will address your brothers and actually tell him about this when they have no idea about what has happened, and they will have no idea who you are and what has happened to you. So just hang in there, just persevere. And then we understand that when the time comes and the problem is over, then you look back and you see that, oh, okay, this was supposed to happen so that I grow to be a better person and to know God better. So this is like a great assurance from God for the believers who believe in him. They came back to their father in the evening, weeping. They said, our father, we went racing with each other, leaving Joseph with our equipment, and the wolf devoured him. You will never believe us, even if we were telling the truth. They produced his shirt with fake blood on it. He said, indeed, you have conspired with each other to commit a certain scheme. All I can do is resort to a quiet patience. May God help me in the face of your conspiracy. So we understand from this verse that Jacob was actually doing the right thing by wanting to have the patience, and that's what we understand from Quran, that in the face of adversity, um, if we know that we haven't caused it, the problems are solved, and then we see that the problems are actually solved. So that's actually patience is something that can help a believer in the time of adversity, if it is a test. So Joseph is taken to Egypt. A caravan passed by and soon sent their waterer. He let down his bucket, then said, "How lucky! There's a boy here." They took him along as merchandise, and God was fully aware of what they did. They sold him for a cheap price, a few dirhams, for they did not have any need for him. So we understand how hard at the moment it was for Joseph to feel like this at the end of the well, and then feeling that somebody has come to save him, but then no, they take him as a slave and then they sell him. And so we see that it was part of actually the plan for Joseph to grow as a person. The one who bought him in Egypt said to his wife, "Take good care of him. Maybe he can help us, or maybe we can adopt him." We thus established teach us anything. And so, like for example, the books that sometimes we see on the market these days, and they are very fancy books, and say that like the science of interpretation of dreams and things, that this is all nonsense, and this is not actually true at all, and we should not actually resort to any sort of these things, and they are evil, and we should just stay away from them. God's command is always done, but most people do not know. So 22 says, when he reached maturity, we endowed him with wisdom and knowledge. With us reward the righteous. So from this point on, Shima read the story, and we remembered the story of the governor's wife wanting to seduce Joseph, and Joseph refrained. Actually, his shirt was torn from behind, and actually a person came from the family of the wife of the governor, like witnessing this, and then it was understood that Joseph invited the women of the city, and then they marked their hand by seeing Joseph, and uh, after that we get to actually 1232, that the wife of the governor says, she said, "This is the one you blame me for falling in love with. I did indeed try to seduce him, and he refused. Unless he does what I command him to do, he will surely go to prison and will be debased." So after all these problems that Joseph had gone through, now comes another thing, that uh, now he should go to prison. All right. And he said, "My Lord, the prison is better than giving in to them. Okay. So unless you divert their scheming from me, I may desire them and behave like ignorant ones." So basically, Joseph here resorts to God, and puts his trust in him, and says that, okay, prison is better than doing what the governor's wife. This would be against the law of God, and actually it was not in the plan of Joseph to do this, but we understand from the previous verses that actually God, if it was not for God's will, then even Joseph would have fallen for this. So we should all actually put our trust in God for keeping us from temptations that exist a lot in this world. So his Lord answered his prayer and diverted their scheming from him. He is the hearer, the omniscient. Later, they saw to it, despite the clear proofs, that they should imprison him for a while. Two young men were in the prison with him. One of them said, I saw in my dream that I was making wine, and the other inform us of the interpretation of these dreams. We see that you are righteous. So here, two people in the two prison mates asked Joseph for the interpretation of their dreams. He said, if any food is provided to you, I can not believe in God. And with regard to the hereafter, they are really disbelievers. And I followed instead the religion of my ancestors. So before continuing this part, mashallah, this is like what is happening to me personally. Like when I talk to different people, uh, like for example, we understand from this verse that uh, Joseph was going to interpret the dreams, but then talked about the knowledge which is bestowed upon him, and he started talking about Lord and that he believes in God and he's following the religion of his ancestors and putting aside the idolatry and idols and stuff like that. So that's what is personally happening to me these days. That whenever I talk to somebody, I don't know what happens, but talking about different universes and things like that, and one thing leads to another, and I end up with this topic. And subhanallah, this is the work of God. He's still on the topic. He says, "Oh, my prison mates, are several gods better or God alone? The one, the supreme. You do not worship beside him except innovations that you have made up, you and your parents. God has never authorized such idols. All ruling belongs to God, and he has ruled that you shall not worship except him. This is the perfect religion, but most people do not know. Oh, my prison mates, one of you," now he goes back to the subject of interpretation of dreams. "Oh, my about which you have inquired. Said to one to be saved, remember me at your Lord. Thus the devil caused him to forget his Lord, and consequently he remained in prison a few more years." And we understand from this verse, and it's actually um, it's a footnote, that we should not put our trust in anybody than God. We should then we are putting our trust in somebody. Some actually we are putting our trust in somebody other than God, and that would be actually idol worship. So here it says, when Joseph begged his companion to intercede with the king on his behalf, he exhibited dependence on other than God to be saved from the prison. This does not befit a true believer, and such a serious slip cost Joseph a few years in the prison. And this was basically a lesson for Joseph, that he should not put his trust in anybody other than God. We learn from Quran that only God can relieve any hardship that might befall us. A true believer trusts in God and depends totally on Him alone. Many times before becoming a submitter, and there was many times that like a problem happened and somebody came along that I felt like, and interestingly enough, and at that time I felt like that person has been sent to me by God. But when the problem was over, again I'm thinking that that person did something, and that was the wrong type of thinking to do. And that's what happened, that when I asked that person for another favor, then that person like started to turn away from me. And this happened millions of times, and I didn't know what's going on, you know. I didn't have like a plan of action of and understanding the pattern that I am putting an idol beside God, and that was the problem. So we understand from this verse that even Joseph, by asking that person, gave power to devil to cause that person to Joseph told him to do, to remember him at his Lord and his Master, so that verse 17, if God touches you with adversity, none can relieve it except he. And if he touches you with a blessing, he's omnipotent. 8:17, God is doing everything. It was not you who killed them. God is the one who killed them. And the Arabic is really beautiful. فَلَمْ تَقْتُلُوهُمْ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ قَتَلَهُمْ. So it was not you who killed them. God is the one who killed them. And the next part, وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. It was not you who threw when you threw. God is the one who threw. And that's really beautiful. And the next part says, but he thus, God is hearer, omniscient. So we understand from this that when like for example at the time of Prophet Muhammad, there were actually wars and people fought beside the Prophet on the path of God, for God. It was not them who killed the enemies. It was God who killed the enemies. And it was not them spear or something like that. It was God who threw the arrow or the spear. So this is very, very important to know that it's not us who is doing anything. God is doing everything. All power belongs to God. If God touches you with a hardship, none can relieve it except He. And when He blesses you, no force can prevent His grace. He bestows it upon whomever He chooses from among His servants. He is the forgiver, most merciful. Now, the story continues with the king's dream. So this is the part that it is coming to the point that God wants to raise actually Joseph from the abyss that he is in the prison, and bring him up and actually make him a very prominent person with his leave. The king said, I saw 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 skinny cows, and 7 green spikes of wheat, and others shriveled. O my elders, advise me regarding my dream. If you know how to people who call themselves dream interpreters, but when it came to this, none of them had any idea what it meant. So it was also the plan of God for them not to know how to interpret these dreams. Actually, those people don't know how to interpret dreams. They're just like fake interpreters. But still, it was part of the plan that none of them knew anything about this dream. They said nonsense dreams. When it comes to the interpretation of dreams, we are not knowledgeable. The one who was saved from the prison said, now that he finally remembered, I can tell you its interpretation. So send me to Joseph. So at this point, that person who was released from the prison remembered that Joseph actually interpreted his dream. So that was the plan of God, that at that moment he would remember. Joseph interprets the king's dream. Joseph, my friend, inform us about 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 skinny cows, and 7 green spikes and others shriveled. I wish to go back years when the time of harvest comes, leave the grains in their spikes, except for what you eat. After that, 7 years of drought will come, which will consume most of what you stored for them. So basically, Joseph tells him the interpretation of the dream and saves Egypt basically by the interpretation and then the action that he takes on uh, actually saving the crops that they have. After that, a year will come that brings relief for the people, and they will once again press Jews. The king said, "Bring him to me." When the messenger came to him, he said, "Lord, and ask him to investigate the women who cut their hands. My Lord is fully aware of their scheme." So basically, the king wanted actually told probably his servants that bring Joseph to me. And when the messenger went to Joseph, Joseph said, "Go back to your Lord." He wanted to say why he is in the prison, who cut their hands. My Lord is fully aware of their schemes. The king said to the women, "What do you know about the incident when you tried to seduce Joseph?" They said, "God forbid, we did not know of anything evil committed by him." So they cleared the name of Joseph. The wife of the governor said, now the truth has prevailed. I am the one who tried to seduce him, and he was the truthful one." And here's the place where the wife of the governor confesses that she was the person actually who wanted to seduce Joseph. I hope that he will realize that I never betrayed him. God does not bless the schemes of the betrayer. So this verse is really interesting. That even Joseph didn't want anything to do with the wife of the governor. She, in her mind, is saying that I have been truthful to you. We still see that that woman was an ignorant person, although she's actually confessing in the previous one that she has she wanted to seduce Joseph, and actually probably she knew that Joseph didn't want anything to do with her. That's why he preferred prison instead of actually having anything to do with the wife of the governor. Still, we see that she's speaking like an ignorant person and say that uh, I never betrayed you. So anyhow, I do not claim innocence for myself. The self is an vice, except for those who have attained mercy from my Lord. My Lord is forgiver, most merciful. So the next part, Joseph attains prominence. The king said, "Bring him to me, so I can hire him to work for me." When he talked with him, he said, "Today you have a prominent position with us." He said, "Make me the treasurer, for I am experienced in this area and knowledgeable." We thus established Joseph of the Pharaoh, the king, and actually makes him one of the rulers in Egypt. And in Torah, if we check Torah, we see that there is a word in Torah for Joseph. It says Zafnat Paneah, and it says like it's one of the greatest levels that a person could have at that time, second to Pharaoh or second to the king of Egypt at that time. And we see that um, God has established Joseph on earth with a prominence level and position, and giving him the power to rule as he wished. So we shower our mercy upon whomever we will, and we never fail to recompense the righteous. And we see from this part that although Joseph went through so much hardship and so many challenges, but still it was part of the plan for Joseph. mm, all the stages. And as Shima said last session, comparing it to the life of a caterpillar becoming a moth, we see that that goes through different stages to become a moth. And we too have to go through different stages in our life to be actually to become prominent, and to hope that God showers us with His mercy, both in this world and in the hereafter. So, additionally, the reward in the hereafter is Joseph's brothers came. When they entered, he recognized them while they did not recognize him. So this is the part, actually, where like when they wanted to throw him in the well, God inspired him that one day you will tell your brothers about this story. This is the beginning of that part, that he sees his brothers after a long time, but with their provisions, he said, "Next time, bring with you your half brother. Do you not see that I give full measure and treat you generously? If you fail to bring him to me, you will get no share from me. You will not even come close." So with this actually generosity that he was showing to his brothers, he wanted to see his actually brother. He wanted to see his brother again. It was their half brother, not his. It was Joseph's brother actually, that he wanted to them to bring to him. So negotiate with his father about him. We will surely do this. He then instructed his assistants put their goods back in their bags. When they find them upon their return to their family, they may come back sooner. So basically, not only they were given actually the food, but also the goods that they brought as a sort of a recompense for the food was also put back in their sacks, in their bags. And when they returned to their father, they said, "Our father, we can no longer get any provisions unless you send our brother with us. We will take good care of him." He said, "Shall I trust you with him as I trusted you with his brother before that? God is the best protector, and of all the merciful ones, he's the most merciful." So here, actually, Jacob is asking his sons about like trusting them again with actually with the brother of Joseph. When they opened their bags, they found their goods returned to them. They said, "Our what more can we ask for? Here are our goods returned to us. We can thus provide for our family, protect our brother, and receive one more camel load. This is certainly a profitable deal." He said, "I will not send him with you unless you give me a solemn pledge before God that you will bring him back, unless you're utterly overwhelmed." Gave him their solemn pledge. He said, God is witnessing everything we say. So here we unfortunately, like for example, in some Middle Eastern countries, it's the word like it's very unfortunately a very regular thing to do, and people even by lying bring the name of God as if like they are just speaking like normal people, and then they say that why are these things happening to them, like all sort of crisis and misery is happening to them, and they are completely unaware of this fact that they are taking the name of God and witnessing God and swearing to God in vain for like not important things. So that's very important to know. because later on we see that the brothers of Joseph basically, uh, when to keep his brother, are saying that, oh, don't you remember that we like witnessed God and we swore to God before our father that we will return his brother safe. So that's actually a lesson for us. I trust in him, and in him shall all the trusters put their trust. Jacob senses Joseph. When they went to Joseph, they entered in accordance with their father's instructions. So they went from different doors of the city. Although this could not change anything, Jacob had a private reason for asking them to do this, for he possessed certain knowledge that we taught him, but most people do not know. So here, from this part, we understand that Jacob was given like a knowledge from God for telling, and we don't understand what is the reason that actually Jacob told his sons to enter from different doors. Probably, I don't know. There was a by God to happen, but still, Jacob told his sons to do that, and they obeyed. And we understand that he was given a knowledge from God. Back in Egypt, when they entered Joseph's place, he brought his brother closer to him and said, I am your brother. Who he is. And but still, the other half brothers didn't know about who Joseph was. Joseph keeps his brother. When he provided them with their provisions, he placed the drinking cup in his brother's bag. Then an announcer announced, the owners of this caravan, as they came towards them, what did you lose? They said, we lost the king's cup. Anyone who returns it will receive an extra camel load. I personally guarantee this. They said, by God, you know full well that we did not come here to commit evil, nor are we thieves. They said, what is the punishment for the thief if you are liars? They said, the punishment, if it is found in his bag, is that the thief belongs to you. With us, he then started by inspecting their containers before getting to his brother's container, and he extracted it out of his brother's container. Here it says in the verse, we thus perfected the scheme for Joseph. So we understand that this was all part of the plan of God, all supposed to happen. As much as it might sound a little bit hard for people to understand, how all these things can be like planned by God, we as submitters know that nothing is impossible for God, and this was all part of the plan that all happened. He could if he applied the king's law, but that was the will of God. We exalt whomever we choose to higher ranks. Above every knowledgeable one, there is one who is even more knowledgeable. Subhanallah. It's a very, very beautiful verse. But we understand that the same things is happening for us, like the same stories going on for us. We just don't know that. God knows why, or things like that. We have no idea. And this is really interesting to like a ponder on it a bit deeper, that everything is the scheme verse, that the plan was perfected for Joseph. They said, if he stole, so did the brother of his in the past. See, now they are saying something which is not true about Joseph. Okay, so Joseph concealed his feelings in himself. He controlled himself and did not give them any clue. He said to himself, you are really bad. God is fully aware of your accusations. They said, oh, you noble one. He has a father who is elderly. Would you take one of us in his place? we see that you are a kind man. So at this point, basically the brothers wanted to like actually fulfill their pledge that they the promise that they gave to Jacob to return Joseph's brother, but and saying that, okay, keep one of us and give him back. He said, God forbid that the one in whose possession we found our goods. So basically, Joseph said that no, we're not going to give him back. Otherwise, we would be unjust. We then, when they dispersed from you before God, in the past you lost Joseph. I am not leaving this place until my father gives me permission, or until God judges for me. He's the best judge. So from this part, I don't know. It says in the past you lost Joseph. I don't know who is saying this, and probably doesn't like. Um, it doesn't matter, but it says that their eldest said that. And my question is that whether that elder son was among the other brothers when they threw him in the well. I mean, was he aware of this fact, or is he like just making a scene in front of Joseph when he's talking to other people? I don't know whether they're talking like in secret, or they're like talking out loud. We know for sure because this is what we have witnessed. This was an unexpected occurrence. You may ask the community where we were, and the character. Resource. May God bring them all back to me. He's the omniscient, most wise. He turned away from them, saying, I am grieving over Joseph. His eyes turned white from grieving so much. He was truly sad. So we from this verse we understand it doesn't matter whether you are the prophet of God or not. He was grieving so much. He was really sad, and that's why he went blind. Jacob went blind.
Quiet
Yes.
patience is my only recourse.
I'm sorry.
Uh, uh, it's my only recourse.
Oh, recourse. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I said resource, right?
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
no
Yeah.
worries.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for correcting me. Yeah. Quiet
No
patience
problem.
is my recourse. Yes. True. Sometimes your eyes go like. Anyhow. All right. Thank you. So, his eyes turned white from grieving so much. He was truly sad. And the next one says, they said, by God, you will keep on grieving over Joseph until you become ill or until you die. He said, I simply complain to God what you do. And this is a lesson for us as well, that if we have like a problem or something like that, um, or if we have like a grief, or if there is a like a situation that we don't know how to solve, we have to put our trust in God and talk to Him, and not any other person or any other thing can help us. We should not put any idols beside God. We should not even rely so much on our intelligence and our wits, thinking that we can, with our wisdom, we can take care of the situation, because we can't. We have to trust in God. That's little by little. I myself personally am understanding this, the meaning of إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. Like we put like we um, we ask help from you, and we only worship you. I'm understanding this as we like as I am living my daily life, what it truly means. And he's the Nora of everything. And when we do that, subhanallah, I personally have seen that like problems are solved, and because you only put your trust in God, and that's really important. And this is a great lesson, I think, for everyone. O my sons, go fetch Joseph and his brother, and never despair of God's grace. None despairs of God's grace except the disbelieving people. Now, here it says Israel goes to Egypt. When they entered Joseph's, oh, you noble one, we have suffered a lot of hardship along with our family, and we have brought inferior goods, but we hope that you will give us full measure and be charitable to us. God rewards the charitable. He said, do you recall what you did to Joseph and his brother when you were ignorant? They said, you must be Joseph. He said, I am Joseph, and here is my brother. God has blessed us. This is because if one steadfastly perseveres, but we have to do that. We have to be completely trustful, and when that happens, then we see that like all problems will be solved, good things will happen, we will be showered with mercy. So uh, actually a prominent position has been given to Joseph over them. And that is why at the beginning of the story, they basically had a sort of forgive you. Of all the merciful ones, he's the most merciful. And here you understand that Joseph had nothing in his heart about them. I mean, after all these things done to him, like being put in uh, like a well, that he still doesn't blame them, and has forgiven them. That's really important. That we should understand that this was part of the God's plan for Joseph, and he has nothing against them. He's not objecting to it. He said, "There's no blame upon you today. May God forgive you of all the merciful ones. He's the most merciful. Take this shirt of mine. When you throw it on my father's face, later." So this is really uh, interesting. So even before the caravan arrived, their father said, "I can sense the enlighten me." They said, "By God, you are still in your old confusion." When the bearer of good news arrived, he threw the shirt on his face, whereupon his vision was restored. He said, "Did I not tell you that I knew from God what you did not know?" And we all know that actually this is by the leave of God, Jacob's face, his vision is restored. So we know that. They said, our father, pray for our forgiveness. We were wrong indeed. He said, I will implore my Lord to forgive you. He is the forgiver, most merciful. Then back in Egypt, when they entered Joseph's quarters, he embraced his parents, saying, welcome to Egypt. God willing, you will be safe. And this is really beautiful. Like we see that now he's in the position of prominence. He has a lot of servants. He's ruling, and he has like saved Egypt. And now, even after seeing like his father and his mother, He's saying, God willing, you will be safe here. I mean, he's not saying that, oh, you're safe here. Don't worry about it. I'm like the king, I'm like Zafnat Paneah. I can do anything that I want to do. No, it's not the case. Even we see that he's humble here, and he's saying that God willing, you will be safe here. And this is really beautiful that we should use God willing with like we can use inshallah and also God willing, and we should make a habit of it, saying that, and that would be really really nice. And when we do that, as the messenger of covenant said, that at first it would seem a bit odd, but after some time even your American friends will respect you more. So that's really important. He raised his parents upon the throne. They fell prostrate before him. He said, "O my father, this is the fulfillment of my old dream. My Lord has made it come true. He has blessed me, delivered me from the prison, and brought you from the desert after the devil had driven a wedge between me and my wills. He is the knower, the most wise." And this is we understand that, like when they fell prostrate before him, it is the actually fulfillment of the dream that he saw, that the sun, the moon, and 11 stars, if I'm not mistaken, were like prostrating before him, and this is like the fulfillment of that dream. Creator of the heavens and the earth. You are my Lord and master in this life and in the hereafter. Let me die as a submitter and count me with the righteous. And this is like the beautiful verse. I actually highlighted the last part of it that says, "Tawaffani Musliman wa alhiqni bis salihin." Let me die as a submitter. See, Musliman, and count me with the righteous. Okay, so basically from this point that uh, Islam was even uh, in existence from this verse before Abraham. Okay, so in that sense of actually proof that all the prophets were submitters. All the prophets were submitters to God alone, and that's what we understand from the story of Joseph as well. So that's really important. I mean, and if like Muslims, like Shiite or Sunnis, say anything about this, that like no, it came from Muhammad, we can show them. I mean, I'm sure we can show them such verses from Quran, then they would understand. So this is news from the past that we revealed to you. You were not present when they made their unanimous decision to throw Joseph in the well as they conspired together. So this is really, really beautiful. It was like watching a movie directed by God, and completely immaculate, and it was really, really beautiful. Brother Suleiman, how much time do I have? If like finish the
I think you're pretty much uh
okay, okay, all right. Thank you so much. So inshallah we will end actually the session here, and if like you have
mashallah. I think
questions.
mashallah, very good. I think usually what we try to do is as a rule of thumb, like we do like 45 minutes or like 2 pages, or 2 pages, whichever comes first. So if you read 2 pages and it's not 45
Okay,
minutes, probably a good idea to pause there, and or if you keep reading more and you have less pages, and if you have time, you could keep reading.
absolutely.
So it's like 45 minutes pages. I mean 45 minutes or 2 pages.
45 pages. Okay, I take that.
Yeah. Mashallah. So I think one thing I wanted to comment on the verses was, I think one of the things that is difficult for us sometimes to distinguish is the idea about, like, asking people for favors, and when you have something that needs to get done, obviously, things need to be communicated. That's how God has designed the world. Is, like, you have lawyers, you have doctors, you have bosses, things like that, right? And so the test is designed in such a way that you have to utilize these venues if you want to get things done. For example, like, as we see in the case of Joseph, if you want to get a job, you have to apply for the job, right? And so, even though we see that Jacob made a mistake where he begged, the his prison mate for, being
Joseph.
Joseph. What did I say? Jacob. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So Joseph, he made a mistake by asking his prison mate to intercede on his behalf. He exhibited dependence on other than God when he actually begged him, right? He didn't even just say it. Like, it says, he begged him, and it says, remember me at your Lord. So he called him his Lord, but he forgot about God. It says in the footnote, he forgot about God. So the difference is, again, when he's, but like, when we see that he is out of the prison, he still asked the king for something, right? He asked him to make him the treasurer. Now we know that God is the one who hires and fires, but obviously, the difference is that in this case, he most likely did not forget that God is the one who hires and fires, and knew that this was God's plan, and he knew that God was the one who was doing it. So in the same sense, we go, when we are sick, we know God is the one who heals, but we still go to the doctor, you know. And the same way, you have, a thief breaks into your house, you're still gonna call the police, right? You're not just gonna say, "Oh God, take this thief out." So I think the bottom line, and you're gonna take medicine, even though God is the one who heals. So I mean, the bottom line of the story, and to remember in all of this, is whenever we have to do anything, if we give power to anybody, it doesn't matter whether we ask someone for anything or not. What matters is, what is your belief asking for is going to come from. Is it coming from the pill? Is it coming from the doctor? Is it coming from this person, or is it coming from God? So this is the bottom line. If you think that anything or anyone other than God can benefit you or harm you in any way, that's the definition of idol worship. So, but at the same time, you can ask anybody for help. You can ask anybody for a favor. Nothing wrong with that, right? So as long as our heart is in the right place, and we know for sure that God is the only one we depend on, and he's the only one, because we see several examples of different situations, right, where people are helping each other, people are fighting together, they're all helping each other and asking each other to, like, people came and asked uh, for to build a bridge to save them from Gog and Magog, right? So to Zunun, so Jonah, right? Oh, I mean, what is the one with the N in his name? Sorry. So so all of this is fine, as long as your dependence is only on God, right? I mean, when you have a headache, you to grow your soul. Anytime you have anything, you think about God, like, even little things, right? Like, you're driving, and you see the lights moving from green to red and red to green, and you say to God, like, please make this light, green for me, and you thank God and you think about it. It helps grow your soul, right? So in the same way, when you're doing all these things, you can ask God, but ask God, Ask God first and foremost, knowing that God is the only one who can help, right? Because you might need something, and help people to help could be available, but as long as it's not God's will to give you that help, like as in the case of Joseph, right? The help is not going to come to you if it's not God's will to allow that help to come to you, based on, whatever your destiny is, or based on what you deserve.
Yeah, mashallah, I would say that, absolutely, it's just our whatever intentions are. I mean, if you were in a very stressful situation and somebody helps you, and after that person's help you out of that situation, and you give credit to that person, that, oh my God, if that person was not there, I would have been, uh, telling those prisoner mates. I mean, he should have focus on, because he was already preaching them. I mean, I follow the religion of Abraham, Isaac, and I'm a submitter and this and that, and he should have said, if you can mention to the king, and if God's will, I'll be out of here. I mean, mentioning God with any way we possibly we can, because the the prime example that we get from this same surah is here. He's telling his primates, prison mates, right? But if you go to the verse number 55, same person Joseph is asking the king. Verse 55 says, he said, make me the treasure, for I am experienced in this area and knowledgeable. So same person is asking the king for a favor, but at that point, he in his mind, he know that God is the one arranging everything, but God is the one, he makes the pathways for you. uh, but at any point, if you give credit to someone else, that's where the art of worship comes in. I mean, of course, if you need a job or something, you need to ask someone. Of course, you're gonna ask, but it's a very small thing. I mean, if you have a headache, and you go and walk to the fridge and open and get the water and get a pill, I mean, the pill is doing what it's gonna do with God's will. But walking to the fridge, I mean, your body is there's so many neurons firing, and you don't even know the controlling and balancing your leg to walking straight, and going to the all the way there. And so God has done so much already in that aspect, that he's running everything. What a pill is going to do, I mean, we can't even give credit to the tiny pill. So yeah, I agree, mashallah, with him. And also, mashallah, I just want to stress that, brother, what Solomon said earlier. Let's keep in like 2 pages on average, because there's so much information we just gone over. This is the very, I mean, pretty much the whole Quran is dense with information. If we can read 2 pages and explain more, that way we can learn more about the depths of the. I mean, when each of us spend time and working on the verses and bring up ideas. Uh,
Maybe as a submitter, it's better for us to, as a person who has had her own share of illnesses for lack of belief and for not submitting during my life. I can say for sure that if you even like get used to the idea of like okay, having a headache and having a medicine, this could show lack of I mean belief. Because, or let me put it this way, a submitter never gets a headache, a submitter never gets sick. So maybe in the earlier stages of submission, it's a good idea to use the medicine or anything, and then, of course, know that the source of healing is God Almighty, is not that medicine. But then later on, it's better to work on our belief system rather than, I mean, relying on, okay, what if this headache happens and there's that medicine, but I'm relying on God. Satan might actually use that and get us um, um, I mean, accustomed or get us addicted to that medicine, and then we might say, "Oh, I'm a good believer." We might get sick means that there is something missing. We are not that strong in our belief, because God guarantees perfect health and perfect wealth. So we shouldn't be sick in the first place.
to God, رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. He's imploring God to make me do the salat and my children. I mean, imploring about the story of Solomon, that he was going and the ants were talking. I'm just going to paraphrase that, inshallah, that, and he can hear them. He smiles. In verse 19, inshallah, read that, as he smiled and laughed at her statement. He said, "My Lord, direct me to be appreciative of the blessings you have." He smiles and he's what is he imploring God? He's imploring God to make me appreciative. So being appreciative is saying that I'm gonna say thanks to God. I'm gonna be appreciative. It's not even a good thing. I mean, we should even implore God to make me a thankful person to you, make me appreciative person of the blessing you bestow. I mean, imploring God for that. That's what we learned, the important thing. And then he's also saying the upon me and my parents, and to do the righteous work that pleases you. So he's imploring all that. As we know, the imploring is act of worship, and imploring for everything. I mean, your salat, any good deeds that you do, imploring God, my Lord, make me be a righteous person, make me the person who follows your commandments. Anything that possible, you can implore God. Because here we learn in this surah, in verse number 33, he said, "My Lord, the prison is better than giving into them, unless you divert their scheming from me, I may desire them and behave like ignorance." God answers his prayers, moves this scheme. Uh, so in that sense, that he's imploring God for everything. So that's just I want to mention that is so important to implore God for anything negative that we see in our life, as we are not humble enough to God, as we are not reverence God. Is like Surah 23. In the beginning, God says, I'm paraphrasing, that the believers are reverence in their salat. So implore God, as much as you can, that my Lord, make me reverence in the salat to you. And then God answers, this verse number 34. How does it end? He is a hearer and omniscient, so he will make you. I mean, you do your part to be reverenced, you do your part to obey God. We do just what we can, and what we're doing it is all, I mean, this body, we don't even own this body. God is running this body. So basically God is doing everything, but we implore God to make me reverence to him.
But we can't hear you, Brother Jafari, if you can hear us. Yeah, he wanted to say something, but we couldn't hear him, probably. Last time it also happened.
I think he's
Samak.
speechless.
Now we can hear
Can you
you.
hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
we can.
That was a good one, Brother Ali. It was so nice Quran study. I really speechless, mashallah. I wanted to add something with what Sister Shima said about the headache. You know, even if you use medicine for your headache, that doesn't guarantee that your headache will go. You know, sometimes, yeah,
Exactly,
right?
exactly,
So
yes.
actually, if you use or you don't use, it's really depending on God and what He wishes for you. So and of course what you deserve also. And one other point was with first. We need to put God first and then ask. You know, even for the smallest things, right? Right? We just maybe silently or maybe not ask God first and then ask the person for job or ask someone if they can give you some water or anything. Maybe that would be someone else.
Exactly. I mean, I agree that, mashallah, there are many situations that, like in many things that happen to us, that there are many people. If we want to think about it logically, many people should do different parts of the task for it to be done for us. Okay, like to be done in our favor. So we can't possibly control anybody, you know. So basically, that's even logically, we have to put our trust in God. Same as the story of Joseph, you know, like Joseph wasn't doing any of those things. Basically, God was doing everything, and he was just like in the mercy of God.
Yeah, mashallah. The thing, what especially one thing in the Quran that we don't ever forget is the situation where Moses was, where some women were waiting for the water, and he helped them, and then he went to a silent place and asked God. He said, "My Lord, you see that I am in need. Please help me." Right. So he didn't ask the other people. Even after helping them, he didn't say, "I'm thirsty," or "Can you give me some shelter or something to eat?" He went to a silent place and asked God first, and immediately after that, the woman comes back and says to him that she spoke about him to his father, and he invited him to his house, right? So this what happened to Moses is actually a thing that I never forget, and every time when I need something to be done, so I try first to ask God, and then knowing that the system in this world. And there was one of the audios where Dr. Rashad is talking about with someone, and that person is asking him if he can sit in his house and implore God all the time. And then Dr. Rashad tells him, "Okay, but you need to eat, right?" So he says, "Okay, I will use my mind." He says, "Okay, I will go outside and ask someone." Right, and there is something you're doing, right? You need to do something because there is a system here in this world. But the first thing that the submitter needs to do is firstly ask God first, and then go to the second one. Mashallah.
Yeah, I think another thing I wanted to mention. I think we talked about saying God willing, and I think we're saying that we can say God willing to our submitter friends. We can say inshallah to submitter friends. So I think well, I think we should probably and I'm not saying I don't do that. You know, I do that a lot. But I think we should try to get in the habit of not saying inshallah. If you're talking Arabic, say inshallah, or other whatever word is appropriate for which language, because like especially when we say inshallah, the reason why we don't say Allah in English, right, is just because like when other people who you say God willing, I mean it's very natural for people, in the Western society to say God willing too. So it just gives them a way to we're sort of inviting them to the commonality, towards worship of one God and towards the unification of the religion, this way. But if we say Allah, it sort of kind of alienates them in a way, and makes them think also that Allah is like another God. It's like a moon God. And actually, the Messenger of the Covenant actually shared an incident God that is not the same as God as everybody else.
He also, mashallah, mentioned that that God says whenever you were bending over, pick up something, and you pull your back muscle, and you know that it's gonna bother you for the next 2-3 days. Instantly you say inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un maybe a few times. You will see things starts to shift right before your eyes. Anything you suffer, minute or big, just that gives us another reason to remember God. Whatever, even smallest thing, you bump your foot on the wall or on the side or something, you say inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un. And not only you're remembering God, that thing which could have lasted longer, that will go away instantly. And also I want to say that the perfectness is not the target, because we can never say that I will never make a mistake, or can never be and it says you should eagerly race toward forgiveness from your Lord, and a paradise whose width encompasses the heavens for God, and ask forgiveness for their sins. And who forgives the sins except God, and they do not persist in sinning knowingly. So that's a very good clue that we get. Mistakes happen by mistakes. You don't make a mistake, sin knowingly, but when something happens, it's going to happen. You're a human being, but we should remember God right away and ask God for forgiveness. I mean, it could be anything. Sometimes that could even happen. Even messengers say you will once in a while miss a salat. That's gonna happen. I mean, I don't know in which sense he said, but it happens. Sometimes you are so tired, you wake up for the fajr or something that happened. Instantly remember God and repent. I mean, salat is a very big thing, but any small thing, forgiveness. And then the next verse says their recompense is forgiveness. Their recompense is forgiveness from their Lord. So they're gonna get forgiveness. This is a guarantee from God. And the gardens of flowing streams, and they abide therein forever. What a blessed award for the workers, mashallah.
Mashallah. I had a question about the amount of years that Joseph went into prison. Is there any information in the Quran where God says that it was, I don't know, maybe it's wrong information, but 5 plus 2 years? Anyone knows?
I'm so sorry, brother. What would you say the first part? I missed it.
Yeah, so how many years Joseph went to the prison? Was that 5 years and then plus 2 years because he begged the guy?
Yeah.
Any information in the Quran about that?
No, I don't have. But the only thing I care well, they saw. Oh, there's a boy. So he was a very young, maybe a 10-year-old could be, Then God mentions until he mature. So maybe another 10 years, we can just roughly add the years. 10 years are passed. Then this incident happens with the king's wife, and then he was in the prison. So let's take the average number. Let's say he was there for 3 years, and then he begs the guy to get him out of the prison. So God says few more years. So maybe few, at least we can just say minimum, like at least a three years. Then he gets out of the prison. Then he tells the prison, the king, about the dream. So they save food for 7 years. So another 7 years has passed, right? Now they have a lot of food. Now the drought comes. So Joseph's brother, they probably have at least some food. So they didn't come right away. Maybe they waited another year or two until they run out of their food. So that's maybe another 2 years. So that's roughly 27 years, we can just kind of say. So that is a very long time where Jacob was away from his son. And I mean, that was a very long time, and in that much length of time, he lost his vision. So that's something,
I understand. I meant the how many years he was in the prison. The time
in
that
the
he was
prison.
in. Dr. Rashad says that the average test, the test we are having, is like 5 years, right? Did he get it from there? I don't know. I was just curious. Maybe information in the Quran about that, but
Well, part of it was his consequence that he ended up spending so much time in the prison. So it's not so much about his admission test. I mean, it was consequence of something bad. So he could have even been in God's kingdom while he was in there, but the fact that he forgot God. I mean, he ended up staying a few more years as a consequence, right? Doesn't mean he was not in God's kingdom while he was in the prison.
okay. Yeah, because from the Quran, where do you get that the test in average is 5 years? And I thought it was and then because he did something wrong, he added up 2 more years, in total 7 years. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know for sure.
It's just like like I think Ali mentioned it, right? It's just like an he said usually it takes about 5 years or so because it's a series of tests. So it's not like it's a definitive number that you. It's not like the 2.5% of charity or some figure like that. I mean, he said roughly like usually it takes this long for someone to go through because they have to be tested with so many things and things take time and things take time to pass and so, he just gave like a rough figure. But he said you could pass it in 1 week or 1 month, depending on how good. I think he said 1 month, depending on how good you are, right? So it's not like that number, like a formula that it's an exact 5 year period. He said you could even pass it in a month. So,
That you went to the prison.
One of the good thing that God mentions is about when he was in prison. He says that I can tell you the food before you receive it. So here, these people are in prison, and they don't know what they're gonna get for lunch, or whether they are gonna go to lunch, or what the next meal is. So if someone within them is telling them, okay, this is what you're gonna get for dinner, that in itself is a miracle that he knows they're gonna get it. And that is quite worth mentioning by God, that that is amazing. And for those people to understand that if someone has this knowledge, maybe we should listen to this person when he's talking about God alone. Maybe we should pay attention to that. Mashallah.
yeah, Ali, I can tell you're gonna have biryani and halwa
I knew
puri
where you're going with it.
for lunch or dinner.
Oh, you know that already. I know what you're gonna have for breakfast. tomorrow. A steak.
Steak.
Yes. Steak for breakfast and steak for lunch.
Mashallah. About how kind and like forgiving Joseph was, because he knew the plan. He knew that there was something behind all this, like stages and steps he went through over the years. So we might also have people in our life that are like, before we were submitters, we didn't want to see them much, and we were just having problems with them. We were, because they were not the exact like perfect people we were expecting in our life. So but nobody's perfect, and everybody is like assigned in our life to teach us something and to make our soul grow. So it's like we even should be appreciative of some people in our life that actually made us by God's leave to get to this stage, to this step in our life. So it's good to just look back and just reconsider how we viewed people. I'm not telling them, okay, we can go and just hang with them, or I mean, be friends with them. No, but to see what's happening in our life is actually what God wants us to see how He has been directing the story of our life, even though it was tough, and it was a good lesson for us. So we should try to be more like Joseph and how kind and clement he was, inshallah.
Yeah, mashallah, being kind and clement. People listen to you, and if you become angry, if you give somebody a message, and they become defensive, and you become defensive, you can only repel them. You keep your cool. You listen to them. That's all we can do. I mean, there's nothing else. And the more we get angry, the more it's gonna push them away. There's no benefit out
I
of that.
think really one thing I always get from this that surprises me is how Jacob as a parent was so patient, that he had all these children who were scheming against their own brother and threw him in the well, and he had to spend all these years like being away from Joseph, whom he loved so much, and then same thing happens to the other son, and he says, quiet patience is my only recourse, and it's really just when you think about it, like you have to have a lot of to have so many boys that you have to manage, and then knowing like because he knew like they carried out the scheme and ended up losing the brother because of their own jealousy, you know. But he exhibited such patience, and he was such a man of character that he never laid his hand on his children also, or beat them physically in any way, but he just basically put his trust in in God, and was so patient the whole time.
Question about Jacob. Is there a possibility? I mean, just a question. I'm not questioning Jacob, but thought that was he weeping so much in grief that was this wrong on that part, that God took away the vision? Was there something, or I'm not questioning his belief, but could there be any possibility of that, you think? You understand my question? But anyway, plot the scheme first time with Joseph, they were doing wrong. And see how God's system, they had planned and God had his plan. So when Joseph became the treasurer of the Egypt, and these people, these brothers came to them, how God made them through Joseph go back and bring the other brother back, his father, which they don't want to do anymore. They schemed the first thing that they're going to take Joseph out of the picture. But what happened? It fired back even worse. His father becomes start grieving so much, and what their plan was that so their father can. Instead, he started grieving so much. Maybe that was the reason God made him in that way, that so the brothers, their scheme will be failed. Maybe that was the reason he was so grieving so much, and so they realized and that in for them, because they love their father, right? That bothered them for a long, long. Believe that was the reason. So when they took the second brother, and when the second brother, Joseph kept him, and now they come back. Now look at what's going on with them. Now they have to go back to their father and tell them, we lost the second one too. I mean, just imagine the embarrassment and humiliation that had to go on through, that they don't want to do it, but they're forced to do it. That's so important. That's why it's a lesson for us that never plot negative thing, because what goes around comes around. And then second time uh, that happens, you will be suffering miserably. Mashallah, praise God.
So
Yeah, brother,
Ali, I think.
mashallah.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, you go ahead, brother.
Okay, Michelle. I was just gonna say regarding your question, Ali. It's a very, very, very good question, and I always think about it. And most people I hear, they say, well, he made a mistake because he was grieving about them, and that's why he lost his vision. But as we can see, complaining to God about my dilemma, so it's only that. I mean, he he is just missing his son that he hasn't seen, and he loves him so much, and he can't help it. And like, I think it's just like a natural feeling that I mean, it's not. I mean, even though he knows from God that he's eventually gonna see him, he still misses him. But that's, I mean, that's human. That's part of being human, to have emotions and feel things in that sense, right? I mean, I don't see like he is exhibiting any unsubmitter like behavior, like, oh, I wish I had this, or like grieving over some material things or anything like that. He just loves his son, and his son, he's not able to be with him, and he misses him, so he cries about it. But his vision is gone, but it's restored. I mean, that could even be part of his who knows. I mean, it sounds too long for an admission test, but it, either way, it was eventually his vision was restored for him, and so.
I want to add. So there was a Shiite friend of mine. Um, they are doing this wiping their body, right, with these sharp knives. So, and if you ask them why they are doing it, and that it's not allowed to damage your body willingly, right? And he gave always the example of Jacob, where he was crying so much that he lost his eyesight, right? um
That's
so maybe,
apples
sorry.
and or I mean, that's apples and oranges for them. I mean, it was his son. It made sense for him that he missed his son. I mean, these people have never seen Ali and Hussein. They have no,
Yeah,
physical connection. They only cry because they idolize them.
yeah,
Because they
right.
praise them
But
and idolize them. And
yeah, so my point
yeah.
was actually, um, when God gives examples in the Quran about the things that happened before, He's telling us about those things that happened, but it's also a kind of a using this what happened to him as excuse to damage their own bodies. So God is, I think, also using it not only for that time, but also for this time, and until the end of the world. People are going to use this kind of things. The same thing with Abraham, where people are thinking that God was the one who told him to sacrifice his son. And then we learned after that it was not God actually, and God saved him.
Yeah, so misguided by the same verses that we are reading, and God willing, with which we will be guided, you know. So basically the same verses, we see what's going on in the world of Islam, that many clergymen and mullahs and actually are using the verses of Quran to support and back up their misbeliefs about God, the things which are happening around them. And one for Ali Hussein or some other saints, the same thing is going on in Christianity. And the other day I saw a video that actually there is a sort of extremist group in Christianity that have some sort of sharp bracers that they turn around their feet or their arms to feel the pain that Jesus Christ felt when he was being crucified.
Okay, so I guess if there are no other comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude our study. So thank you all for joining us. God willing, our next study is going to be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Ali or Jaffer? So which one is?
Maybe not this week.
Okay.
That would be nice.
What's that? You want to do it next Saturday?
So not this Saturday, but
Okay.
the Saturday
Okay, inshallah. So,
next week, maybe. Inshallah.
Ali, would you be able to lead then? Inshallah, because I will be traveling, and I think Huda will also be traveling. God willing. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. Brother,
I'm sorry?
so next time when I'm late to the studies, you can
Oh,
call
yeah,
me, right?
sure. Send me a message. Yeah, okay. I didn't know